Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. So I've got a very fun video for you all today, and I'm going to be comparing all of my fine liners, ink pens, just any type of pen which I like to do for line art and drawing. So for a little bit of background, I have been illustrating since 2018, and I primarily used to do a lot of traditional art. My favorite mediums are watercolor and alcohol markers, so that's what I'm going to be testing today. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. I'll be splitting this comparison and review into 3 different sections. So the first will be fine liners, then it'll be ballpoint pens, and finally it will be inks. So the first one up is fine liners. So for the first pen, it's Ohuhu's fine liner drawing pen, which comes in a 8-pack. It's around $10, which equates to around $1.25 per pen. The pen itself is quite standard. You can see what type of pen nib it has on the top cap, as well as the side. It does come with a brush nib, which is very flexible. It's also a felt tip type, so it does come quite sturdy as well. Now as for the smaller nibs, the smallest one is a 0.05, which is very fine. So for those who like little details, this one's perfect for you. And for a more unique pen, which is the 1.0, it actually has a thick nib, which is quite interesting and might be useful for coloring in larger areas. The next pen pack is Typo's Draw the Line Fine Liner, which is a pen pack which comes in a set of 10. It comes at $17, which is around $1.70 each. The pen is quite different to other regular ones because you don't really see the brush nib at the cap, but instead it's on the bottom side of the pen. So that is one downside in terms of the pen design itself, because I do find it quite hard to figure out which pen is which nib, especially if I'm only looking at the pen caps. The brush nib is also very similar to the Ohuhu one, which is felt tip, so it's quite flexible but also sturdy, which is quite nice. And this set actually has a chisel tip, which is very unique and a bit different because I don't really see many pen packs which come with chisel nibs. Now moving on to the next one, which is Morphone's hand lettering pens, which comes in a set of 10. It also comes at $17, which makes it $1.70 per pen. The pen designs are quite standard, very similar to the Ohuhu fine liners, where you see the pen nib at the top of the cap. It has a very different brush nib though, which is a bit more of like a hair one compared to a felt tip brush. So it will be a little less sturdy and a bit more flexible. Now for the next pen is the Artline 220 Superfine in 0.2. It only comes in one size and it's $3.30 per pen. The next one is Unipin's Fine Liner Assorted Nibs in black, which comes in a pack of 5. It comes at around $18.50, which is around $3.70 per pen. The pen type and design is very standard, very similar to the Ohuhu ones, which has like the labels on the top of the cap as well as the side of the pen. I believe Unipin does come with a few different sized packages, varying in different nib sizes, so if you want more variety then you could go with the larger packs, but I just went with the 5-pack. So for the next one is Papermate's Fine Liner Grip, I'm not too sure how much it costs because I did get it a while ago, but I do believe that it came in a pack. And the next one, I believe it's called the Pilot Dual End Marker. For those of you who do know what its name is, please let me know. I couldn't find the pricing for it or the name because it was in Japanese, but it has two tips. One is a fine tip and the other is a chunky tip. So far, all these pens have been in black. The next two are gonna be multicolored. So the first one is Stateless Tripless 0.3mm fine liners, which comes in a pack of 20. There is also a set which comes in a pack of 10, but I do believe it doesn't have as much variety in shades, so I went with the 20 pack. So the 20 pack comes at $37.15, which makes each pen $1.86. And for the next pack, it's Lyra's Graduate Fine Liner Markers, which comes in a pack of 20. It comes at $41.52, which means each pen is $2.08. These pens do come in a few different color sets, so I believe there's like a neon one, a bright one, and so on. So depending on what color set you want to go with, you can pick your own. Oh yes, I forgot, each pen nib is at a 0.5mm. Now let's move on to our next category, which is ballpoint pens. So for the first one, it's Anko's ballpoint pen pack, which comes in a pack of 10. It comes at $1 per pack, which means each pen is only 10 cents. The next one is Papermate's Kilometrico, which comes in a pack of 10. It comes at $3.74 per pack, which means each pen is 37 cents. Next, another one from Papermate. It's their Inkjoy 100 1.0mm, which comes in a 10 pack. It comes at $4.70 per pack, which means each pen is 47 cents. This one is Staedtler's 432 ballpoint pen, which comes in a pack of 10. It comes for $7.98 per pack, which makes each pen around 80 cents. The next one is Muji's Gel Ink ballpoint pen, which comes at $1.50 each. It does come in two sizes. One is 0.5 and the other is 0.38. And finally, the next one is Muji's Smooth Gel Ink ball pen, which is also $1.50 each. So for all of these ballpoint pens, they all come in a variety of different colors, so you can pick and choose what colors you want to use. And now finally moving on to our final section, which is all about inks. So the first one is Pentel's Food Brush Pen, which comes at $9.80 per pen. It comes in multiple colors, and the brush nib is a hair brush nib. The next one is Parker's Permanent Marker Quick Ink Bottle. The bottle is 57 milliliters and it comes at $7.50 per bottle, which comes to around 13 cents per milliliter. And the last one is Platinum's Carbon Ink in 60cc. It comes at $31.48, which comes to around 52 cents per milliliter. Okay, now moving on to the next step, I'm going to be testing each pen to see whether they are alcohol marker proof or waterproof. For the inks, I'll be using my glass dip pen, and I'll be using 3 different paper types to test. So the first one will be a regular 200 GSM copying paper. The next one will be my Strathmore watercolor paper, which is a sketchbook which does handle watercolor quite well, so I'll be testing the watercolor on that book. I believe this one is the 500 series, which is artist grade, so it should be quite good for testing out the pens. And finally, for alcohol markers, I'll be testing it in my Canson sketchbook, which has alcohol marker paper. So for the first round of tests, I'll be testing it on the copy paper. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just swatching each pen. So I'm writing out the names, then I'm going to be scribbling a bit to see some texture and also pretend as though I'm kind of drawing on the paper. I feel like this technique is actually quite useful and quite nice, especially for anyone who's getting new art supplies or if they want to try out something new before they jump into like a proper drawing or anything. They should probably swatch out the pens to see whether they work with each other, or if there's going to be stuff like bleed throughs, sinking, inking, and problems like that. Oh my gosh, I feel like this part's like my favorite part of this whole test was me dipping my glass dip pen into the ink. It felt so satisfying just watching the ink glide on the paper. I don't know why, but am I the only one who feels like that? Okay, now let's fast forward a little bit to after I finish with the swatching. So as you can see right now, here's the finished swatch paper, and then the next one is the finished swatch sheet for the watercolor paper. And finally, here's the swatch sheet for the alcohol marker paper. Okay, now let's start off with the first round of tests. So I'm going to be using my Ohuhu alcohol markers, which comes with a fine nib and a brush nib. For this test, I'll be sticking to the brush nib. So as you can see right now, I'm just swatching each one to see whether it will bleed. Then for the second test, I'm going into my alcohol marker book to see whether the pens will also bleed on alcohol marker paper. Overall, I feel like most of the pens actually performed quite well, except for just a few which I realized bled a little bit, especially during the second round of alcohol marker. So for the pens which worked really well, they were the Ohuhu fine liner drawing pens, Typo Draw the Fine Liner, Morphone's hand lettering pens, Unipin's fine liner pack, Papermate's fine liner grip, Staedtler's triplets, Lyra's graduates, both of the Muji gel ink ballpoint pens, and all three of the ink pens. So as you can see right now, as I'm swatching and double checking, most of the pens actually turned out really nicely, and they were indeed alcohol proof. So I was quite surprised and really excited to try out more of these pens and more of my artworks. Oh yes, for those of you who have noticed that I wrote down a little spot for Winsor & Newton, I did prepare a ink bottle to test out, but I just could not open it for the life of me, so I couldn't test it out. Okay, now moving on to the watercolors. So from this test, I realized that it was quite similar for some of the pens. So for the ones which did work really well with watercolor and were waterproof were Ohuhu's fine liner drawing pen, Typo's Draw the Line fine liner pens, Morphone's hand lettering pens, Unipin's fine liner pack, Pilot's Do and markers, all of the ballpoint pens, and sadly none of the inks. Okay, that's pretty much the end of this whole entire battle of the pens, pretty much. I hope you did enjoy it. I also hope you did find it helpful. I definitely did myself. I actually did not really do like a whole entire battle of the pens testing out type of thingy before, so I am glad that I did one now. I'm actually quite surprised by the pens which actually were both alcohol proof and also waterproof, so those would be really useful for people who like to do mixed media. I did make a table compiling all the prices, the alcohol and waterproofness of each pen. These will be at the end of the video. I'll also include a link to the images in the description below so you can refer to it. Do remember to give me a follow and give this video a like if you did enjoy it and find it helpful. And also if you want to see more videos like this, do let me know. And I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!